What's up everyone, Josh here again. So right now working on a blazer and I'm doing all the closeout panels for the roll cage. Keep the smoke and the debris out. And I've had a couple questions on how, so I'm going to show you how to go from here to here simply and effectively. Now, I mean, I've been doing this a while, so I've accumulated some tools, but I'm going to show you how I started. And when I was a young lass, broke, didn't have any money, and still was able to make templates like this that were deadly accurate, simple to make, and with just not cheap, but affordable tools. This way anybody can do it. I mean, I now have like jigsaws and shears and hand shears and nibblers and blah 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 blah, and that definitely makes it go faster. But back in the day, when I didn't have any of that stuff, I just had simple hand tools. This is how I did it, and the expensive tools only make it go faster, didn't improve quality or any of that stuff. So I just wanted to share that with you, and so you guys can make nice tight fitting panels like these quickly, simply, and effectively, and then transfer them to aluminum and close your stuff out and get something that looks halfway decent and that you're proud of when it's all said and done. All right, so like I said, in my younger days, in my youth, I didn't have money for a lot of fancy expensive stuff, and so this is how I came up with how to do this. I mean, I'd learned stuff here and there, but this was my adaptation from the knowledge people shared with me on how to make closeout panels. Just need some simple tools, nothing too crazy or expensive. I would suggest getting some nicer hand shears. I know these are pink handled, but you know what? I've had these since 1994. Nobody dare ever steal this set of shears from me. These old guys here, they look crappy, but these are actually really nice shears for upholstery work. And they've been sharpened a couple times, and same thing. I've had these since the mid-late 90s, and they've served me well. Some 2-inch and 1-inch tape, speed square, Sharpie, razor knife, bigger T-square. I don't know. These are a little more costly, but worth it. Razor knives are cheap. This one just happens to be that, but I used to have a really good relationship with my old Snap-on guy, so I only had to pay for that for 3 years, not 5. Tape. You want good tape. I like the Scotch or 3M brands personally. They work well. Chipboard you can get at any craft store like a Joann's or similar, and I like the thicker stuff that's closely the same thickness as the panels I'm working with when I'm doing aluminum work or carbon fiber work, just because it fits in the areas properly, and on the back side of things saves you from additional trimming. So you see, it's all simple stuff anybody could get. I would say for all of this, when I originally bought it, maybe $120, $130 ish back then. So today's money, I don't know, maybe 150, 200 bucks, which is affordable. It's a cheap, simple tool investment. So first thing I do is, I know what a lot of guys do. They'll take a panel this size and kind of walk it over to the area and bump it up and scribe it out or whatever. There's a million different methods. This is just the simplest one I came up with. May not work for you, you may not like it, but I've enjoyed it over the years, and it makes things go real quick and simple. So I've already taken the liberty of taking my speed square, setting it up, and at 1 inch intervals, top and bottom, because you know I didn't have a shear back then. So I would take 1 inch, always using a, you know, this was a drop off of something else, but I went off the factory edge so that I know, you know, it's not tapering in or trailing up top. That we're nice and square the whole way through. So we're 1 inch intervals all the way up, and I'm going to take and cut 1 inch strips. So, you know, previously I would go through, hold the square here, run my razor knife across, and get me a nice 1 inch strip. But for the sake of time, and since I have access to one, I'm going to cut the rest of them on the shear. I'm going to show you how. I mean, look, it's just that quick and simple. Obviously, you want a good sharp razor blade. You just want good consistent pressure the whole way through. But literally, it's just that simple. And if you're a little off on this part, as far as the width goes, it really doesn't matter. The 1 inch is just nice because it doesn't give you much deflection this way. And we're not making any three-dimensional, although I have used a similar method for three-dimensional panels. So if you're not, you know, don't worry about, oh, my strips aren't exactly 1 inch. It doesn't matter. That, you know, it's not critical. This is, so I know I said I was gonna. It's that simple, but I will show you on the shear how I do it now. And literally, it's no better quality. It's just simpler and faster. Literally, it doesn't cut a 1 inch strip any better or worse than the scissors or the razor knife does with the straight edge. This is the only benefit here is, again, speed. Normally I would set the backstop up, and I could just push this right up to the backstop, and I wouldn't have to look at these marks, and I'd just zip me off a bunch of strips. And that will give me a little, will give you some more accuracy. You know, you're not necessarily always going to line your straight edge up perfectly. So if you're one of those guys that everything has to be dead nuts perfect all the time, there is that benefit to using a shear, the backstop, but alright, that's all of them. But honestly, like I said, it doesn't matter. So now we got all our strips, and we'll take them over here and see what we can make happen. Alright, so now we got our strips. And like I said, Very, very simple method. Not a lot of razzle dazzle or anything crazy going on here. But we're gonna make a quick, simple template. On tubes, I like to overcut it just a hair. And I actually accidentally cut that one a little too nice. But usually I like to cut them a little farther over so I can trim them back once I tape this one on. But I like to do a few for support first. But so as you can see, there's no rocket science here. We're just gonna find the perimeter of where that aluminum panel or carbon fiber panel will lay. Trim that close. And tape this in place. You know, don't be afraid to shove it up in there tight a little bit. These, I like to let them overlap. That way when it comes time, right before I pull this off, I'm going to tape all these together. Now this, I'm going to leave longer because I want, when this aluminum panel's done, I want this one to sit on top of it so I can get a real true line of where these two meet. And then I'll trim it. So you can see here, these two panels, you know, we're coming down off the tube here, and these two panels are overlapping. And once everything's final fit, once all these panels are in and final fit, I'll make sure that this trim line is still accurate, and I'll shear that off, and those two will butt together real well. And then I'll take another piece here, I'll take like a 1-inch strip underneath here that will rivet to this side but also support this, so that I can remove, in theory I should never have to remove these two panels for anything. This one I may have to remove, so I'm going to keep it simply removable by just drilling out a few rivets, and I'm bolting the fuel cell. But in theory these should never come out for any reason, so that will be a supporting ledge, and I'll also have a supporting ledge here that's but this panel needs to sit flush with this panel and then have another piece underneath of it to support the weight to keep those two flush, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes sense to me and I just said it, but hopefully you're smarter than I am and you understand what I just did. So we'll just continue right along here though. You see here, this has a little lip to it where this panel is up inside of here. So we're gonna go here first. But also this, when I make this, I'm going to bend a return on it to help support the weight of this and give me something to rivet to. So we have to add that inch to this to go beyond that panel. So there's our mark for our inch. This is fit up nice. So that mark will go here. And I know right now you're probably saying, how do I know that's perfectly lining up to this one? Doesn't matter at this point. I forgot. If it's a hair off at this point, it's fine. We'll fix it in a minute. Normally I have a razor knife to do this, but so we're just going to take a piece of our scrap here, and now we've got a real good representation of that notch there that we need to make in this. And we don't have a good representation of that radius yet, but that's okay. We'll get there. And I know there are all kinds of contour tools and other stuff that people use to do this. And I have all that stuff. And I'll do other videos showing you how to use that stuff. But again, this is for the novice or the beginner, or someone who doesn't want to invest in, you know, $1,000 worth of stuff to make panels. And I promise you, see, I just take the tape and just wrap it around there. This is just as accurate as any of that stuff. It does take a little bit longer, but if your tool budget for a project like this is 200 bucks versus $1,000, you can get just as nice of a result for that few $100s versus spending thousands. Don't get me wrong, I love tools and I got plenty of them because I love them, but you don't have to buy everything. I just did just a simple little trace there of this tube so that we can get this to fit. Again, observing that inch, that additional inch we're going to need to make the return. So I did goof up a little bit here on my my battery switch, got a little high, and I'm not sure. I'm going to trim the panel out or cut that down, but either way, that's why we're a little high right here. I don't want to cover that corner because I want to tape it. And I know this is probably like a little long and boring for a how-to video, but I just want to show you in real time how long this takes. Obviously, I've done this for a while, so it does go a little bit faster for me, but with very, very little practice, you could be as proficient at this as I am. Believe me, I'm not that smart. So that's why I've come up with such an easy method. So what do we got left? We got a little piece up here we need. So daggone it. Told you I'm not that smart. So up here, I'm not worried about it fitting perfectly to here because this outside edge and this outside edge is perfect. And I know that this is where this panel meets and that I need to add an inch beyond that. So I'm not overly concerned with excuse me, I'm not overly concerned with it going beyond. Adding an inch is no big deal, because once this is done, then we're going to transfer it to a full-size solid piece of cardboard. Used to, back in the day, use CA glue with the instant set hardener, which is CA glue is just a fancy term for super glue. And that does help it go a little bit faster. You can just put a drop of glue on there, pinch it together, spray it with the activator, and you're done. It's a little costly though. Not ridiculously so, but for this method it is, when we're talking about low buck, quick and easy, or cheap. So but that is another method. Again, right now I'm not worried about 100% perfection. When we get a solid piece of cardboard in here, then it'll bow and flex and tell us what we exactly need. And then when it comes time to transfer it to the aluminum, it'll give us the accurate data. now I just want this to be solid enough to hold up for when I pull it out, so that I can transfer it to a solid piece of cardboard. Yeah, I think we're pretty well set here. So I'm going to grab a razor knife real quick, because what happens if you start tugging and pulling on this is it messes up. Voila. Let's see. So in 12 minutes, while I'm instructing you guys how to do this, I've made this template. Quick and simple and easy. Now what I would do is take this, transfer it to a full-size piece of cardboard, like so, you know, big square. Trace it out, cut just on the outside of the line, just make it just a smidge bigger, and then come in here and then get it to fit. So really isn't that difficult. The one thing about this particular project versus others is, you know, sometimes everything don't always work out the way you want it to. So I was really, once you put this in aluminum, it's a lot less flexible. So I was really hoping I can make this all one piece to look good and, you know, beautiful and all that, but didn't work out. So we had to put once this panel was made, I couldn't get it in there. It just was not flexible enough. So I ended up having to shear it here, and I'll do the same thing. I'll put a piece underneath of it, rivet it together, and when it's all brushed, you can see I got a machine, little handheld machine, that put the brushed effect in there. So once it's all brushed, hopefully the seam goes away a little bit, at least until it gets filled with dirt or something. But for a little while, hopefully it looks good. Then we'll go through and seam seal all this, all these edges, once all that's welded in and done. And I'm gonna paint the tin soldier rails black, so it'll be a nice contrast like we have here, black versus the brushed, and that'll really show off the tin soldier rails, which those are beautiful. I love these things. To me, they're like Frank's Red Hot. I put them on everything. I got them up there on the windshield for the mount for the windshield, and any and every excuse I can use to install those, I'm gonna take advantage of, because they're cool as hell and they're cheap. I love them. So there's that, quick and simple. Now once you got this done, transfer it to your aluminum. Guaranteed that if the cardboard fits perfectly, like I said a minute ago, that doesn't necessarily mean the aluminum is going to fit perfectly, and you're going to have to trim that just a hair more, and you may have to cut a seam in it like I did there. It's whatever the project requires. It's not always about what you want or how you envision things. Sometimes you just got to make compromises. I know I'm not the boss of this project. I have a vision for what I wanted it to be. We've made 100 twists and turns along the way, but overall I'm happy with it. So I'm going to keep plugging away. I hope that you learned something from this and enjoy the video. Thanks for watching.